Hello fellow travelers. As of recording of this video, there are only a few hours of 2024 left, and my project, the logbook of a simple Lindworm traveler, is reaching a stepping stone of sorts. This is going to be first of my videos that is intended to be something that I'll be returning to later, as today we are going to be trying to take a look at the potential orc unit and Northern Tribes character combinations that are possible at the end of the year 2024. It hasn't been a full year of Warcrow yet, merely less than 6 months, but there has been plenty of stuff happening, a lot of new releases during that time, and I think this is a fine way to end the calendar year and also take stock of what we have seen so far. So let's dive into this very special episode of the forces of the Northern Tribes. So, what am I going to be trying to achieve here today? Those of you familiar with the channel have no doubt taken a look at my unit analysis pieces, and these pieces are meant to be standalone videos that give players, especially newer players, the basic what's what when it comes to a particular unit or a character. And while there are going to be moments in those videos where I'm going to be talking about potential unit combinations and strengths and weaknesses thereof. That's really not the main idea of those videos. So this time around we are going to be not talking about the units and characters by themselves in a vacuum, but rather we are going to be specifically talking about just the different kinds of combinations that are out there. And as any would-be cool kid in the online hobby space would do, I'm going to be spicing up this analysis and talk piece with this entertainment purposes only ranking system, where I'm going to be ranking every combination on a three ladder system. Before we talk about what those three different levels of efficiency that I'm going to assign to these units are going to look like, I want to draw your attention to a major caveat. What follows is going to be a video strictly on the possible unit and character attachment combinations out there, without any regard as to the opportunity cost imposed by playing a character as a part of the unit in question. So we aren't going to be grading on the scale of, okay, this character is usually better by themselves, so I have to give a poor grading to them in every possible situation where they are joining a unit. No, instead what we are going to be discussing is how good is the character attachment when it comes to weighing the opportunity cost as another character could have been attached in their place, more or less. So the three different grades that I'm going to be handing out today are excellent, situational, and opportunistic. Those unit combinations that receive the exemplary qualification of excellent by Grotnip's humble opinion are supposed to be the types of character and unit combinations that are of great value as is, and no additional work necessarily required by the Northern Tribes player. These, I would imagine, with the rather not complete knowledge that I have at the moment, are the combinations that I would expect to be the most common going forward, at least the way I play the game at the moment. The next category is called situational. These combinations are something that can be made to work, and they can under the right circumstances provide excellent, even great results. But the results gained through this way are something that I would at the moment hazard a guess to be something that's related to how you are playing the combination in a larger strategy, whether you are trying to overcome a weakness or a strategy that you have found your force to be suffering from, or that your opponent is leveraging to their advantage. So this is going to be something that might require a bit of more work than just attach A to B, send them forward and print money. And then we have the last category that I have named opportunistic. This means that I'm at the moment considering the unit and character combination to be not of great value as is. So usually we should be seeing, at least when I'm playing Northern Tribes, this combination in the situation where I have decided to bring the unit and bring the character, and there are no other viable options when it comes to making attachments, and I decide that okay, I'm going to attach these two together because there's a chance for that and there's little opportunity cost involved. This doesn't mean that in the future going forward that this opportunistic tag would be hanging around these units and characters' necks forever. It might be that the character in question, for example, is the type of character that's mostly going to be used solo, so it's a bit unfair to be evaluating them as a attachable character in many situations. Likewise, there can be future strategies, situations, meta considerations that may shed new light into how these combinations are going to be working, and as such, a change is necessary. I am not going to be talking about the Orc Darkmaster as a attachable character today, because I feel personally that it's not fair to be grading him without considering the opportunity cost of fielding Darkmaster as a solo ambusher piece, and also without considering the other competition that there are for the scout unit positions in the Northern Tribes Warband. These are the types of considerations that I go over in the Darkmaster video itself, so if you're looking for information on that specific character, take a look at that video first and foremost. An important part for you all to remember, and probably the most important part, is the fact that I'm not claiming to be any type of authority when it comes to Warcrow or even the Northern Tribes faction, and scaling the putting the different excellent situational opportunistic tags on these different units. It's simple good fun, and it's not intended to be the be all end all. At the same time, I'm not throwing these ideas just out of my backside. I have tried to done my best to do a lot of homework for this episode, and it has been an extremely hard one to do all the preparation for, and hence the late release of this piece. But please, if you disagree with me, if you feel that I have missed something, or I have not taken full stock of the importance of something, let me know and let's get a discussion going, because that's a way to learn more about the game, test new ideas, and get the meta advancing forward right. If everything goes as I hope and wish it does, I'm hoping to make taking a look at the different units and character combinations a yearly thing. It would be cool at the end of every year of Warcrow to take a look at how the situation has changed, whether the same unit combinations with characters are going to be being strong going forward, or if meta or, for example, profile updates are going to change the way we feel about the different units and profiles. But I fear very much that this is going to be one gigantically long video, so let's end the preamble here and let's get to the nitty-gritty of trying to parse over the different character and unit combinations of the Northern Tribes Orc Units at the end of the year 2024. Let's start by talking about the only orc support character that we have available at the moment, and then we will be continuing on to the officers of the orc forces. And let's start by taking a look at Orc Hunters, our basic infantry unit, and the combination that they form together with the Orc Wise main character. As you can see, I have given every combination a tongue in the cheek name that I might, for example, use to reference to any of these combinations. So you can hopefully juggle along as we go and go through all these potential combinations. Unlike the officer type characters that we are going to be covering soon after, the Wise Main is a support character, and where this comes up mostly is in the fact that he is not counted as a member of the unit that he's joining when it comes to determining how many models are left in the unit, which means that there comes this point with both of the orc units that we are going to be talking about today, after the unit has suffered enough wounds to take 2 casualties, that the Northern Tribes player has to choose whether they are going to remove a second trooper model from the unit, thus forcing them to use the weakened performance profile on the card, or whether they are going to sacrifice the Wise main and the bonuses that he comes with in order to maintain the over half strength of the unit a tad bit longer. But as we are going to be seeing, it's unlikely in either of the situations we are going to be covering today that the Northern Tribes player should want to sacrifice the Wise main in this manner. The other problem that comes with the Wise main being a support character is that he will never be able to detach from the unit as it's destroyed, but rather he's going to be the second to last model to be removed, and the unit's actual leader will be the last one to fall. So we can't expect the Wise main to continue fighting alone after the unit has been wiped out around him, but rather he will fall with the unit. At the same time, as we are taking a look at the Orc Hunter's profile, the performance drop that they suffer when they lose 2 hunters isn't all that big of a deal, and with the quite powerful bonuses that the Wise main brings to the unit, it's usually not going to be a good idea to sacrifice the Wise main until you absolutely have to. One of the core weaknesses of the Orc Hunters as a cheap basic melee infantry unit is the fact that their willpower is pretty weak, and they also have a low morale threshold of 1. And these are both things that the Wise main will be able to remedy to a lesser or greater extent. The additional morale will help the Orc Hunters activate more times per turn, or they can suffer more stress from other sources before they are going to have to stop activating and start checking for willpower and if they are going to break as a result of excess stress. Breaking shouldn't be such a problem for the orc hunters when the wise main is accompanying them, since this veteran orc is going to give them not only a additional yellow dice into their willpower roll, but he will also make them fearless, which means that the orc hunters will be disregarding intimidating and frightened, and also he will be granting them rerolls to their willpower tests. So seeing a unit of orc hunters led by a wise main break and flee from the enemy should be quite a rare occurrence indeed. The wise main boosts the orc hunters conquest value to 2, which I would imagine is quite a decent or rather a standard conquest value for this type of unit, which means that they can fulfill the basic role of taking and holding objectives if and when they are supported right. The fact that the wise man's unit can also ignore or stop themselves from being pushed back when defeated in melee without suffering any stress also makes them more difficult for enemy units to push away from objectives by simply hitting them and then forcing them back. Obviously, if they have other ways of moving the orc hunters, there's nothing the wise man can do about that, but we are talking about a 15-point upgrade to the unit effectively, so we can't expect him to solve all the problems all the time. The wise main grants the unit he will join exactly the same offensive switch that the orc hunters already have access to. So this switch ability is effectively wasted. As a matter of fact, when the orc hunters fall to half strength, it becomes easier for them to trigger their own innate vulnerable inducing switch than it would be to use the wise main, so it's doubly unusable here. Then again, the orc hunters as is don't have any way of making use of special symbols when defending, but the wise main adds a double solid special switch that also inflicts vulnerable state upon the attacker. And as the orc hunters standard full strength defense roll includes 2 black dice, it's quite likely that they will be producing enough specials to trigger this effect, at least when they are above half strength. The wise main will also be adding an automatic hit or automatic success rather to the attack roll of the orc hunters and a automatic block to their defense. And this automatic block is especially valuable to the orc hunters because it not only helps sturdy them against enemy attrition, but it also can be used to trigger the orc hunters' powerful defensive switch. If you are eager and willing to trade your orc hunter's wounds for those of your enemy, just change that block into an automatic success and watch your opponent lose wounds and potentially models even when they are attacking your orc hunters. This is obviously especially powerful ability against the units that are made up of expensive attacking troops that can't fend off this type of returning damage. The orc hunters also don't, as a basic infantry unit, have any push modifiers that would allow them to stress for extra performance when attacking or when defending, so the wise main adds another tactical option for them by providing them with a decent offensive and defensive push modifier to make use of. The wise main's Voice of Experience ability allows the unit that he's attached to to fix a single dice roll from their attack or the defense roll by spending a command token, and this is an ability that I think is at its best when it's used to fix a red dice or a green dice for a double success or a double block respectively. And as you can see, the Orc Hunters always have access to at least one red dice when attacking, and as long as they are above half strength, they will also have access to a double block symbol through the green dice, though this dice is lost when the unit suffers half or more casualties. All in all, I would consider the combination of Orc Hunters plus the Orc Wise Main to be a situational, if not downright excellent combination. I was teetering on which one to implement here, but in the end I decided that there are more powerful combinations or characters that can be attached to the Orc Hunters unit, and there is some overlap in this profile combination and some weaknesses that are left uncovered. For example, the Orc Hunters can't make use of hollow symbols at all with this combination, so that's why I ended up going with the situational tag in this instance. Which leads us then to the other option that the Wise Main can naturally attach to, and that is the battle card that are to be released soon. And since we already have access to the card, I think it was appropriate to include them in this analysis piece also. As you can see, the amount of performance that the battle scarred lose when they fall to half strength or below is quite insignificant. They downgrade one of their offensive red dice to an orange dice. They lose one of their switches on the defensive, and they exchange two black dice and a block for two blue dice, which when it comes to blocks is only a change of 0.5 blocks on average, so nothing too much to worry about there. So using the Wise Main as part of the battle card is going to somewhat mitigate the problem of our veteran Wise Main being a support type character. The Wise Main helps make the battle scarred almost unbreakable as a unit. As the Wise Main is not imposing any willpower upon the battle scarred, but rather he will be granting them a third willpower dice, in this case a yellow one, that will make the battle scarred even less likely to flee from the field of battle. Combine to this the fact that they will be able to resist fear-inducing effects through Fearless, and also the fact that they can reroll any test that they fails, and their chance of passing a willpower test is truly ridiculous. I think I counted it to be about 99% or something stupid like that. So it's really unlikely that your battle scarred are ever going to turn tail and flee the field of battle. Furthermore, the Wise Main augments the battle scarred's already impressive morale value of 2, turning it to morale 3, which means that the battle scarred under the watchful eye of the Wise Main are going to be able to activate over and over again during the round, even if they suffer some stress along the way. The added conquest helps the battle scarred storm and defend objectives, and the latter is made even easier by the fact that the Wise Main stops the battle scarred from being pushable away from the objective after a round of lost combat. The offensive switch that the Wise Man provides is something that the Battle Scarred can make use of, though it is true that the double red and double orange aren't the type of dice that are going to usually be providing you with a lot of special symbols to work with. Then again, the defensive switch is wasted on the battle scarred at full strength, since the battle scarred already have a single solid special switch that induces vulnerable, so there's no point using a double special switch. Then again, at half strength, the battle scarred lose this switch, so then it can indeed become necessary to rely on the wise mains if you are still bent on employing vulnerable against the attacking unit. Both these switches, since they are inducing vulnerable upon the enemy, are a way of triggering the battle scarred's relentless ability, which gives them an additional success on their attack rolls if the target is frightened, disarmed, slowed, or in the vulnerable state. Obviously, if and when you are applying this switch during your attack, it's too late to add that success to your roll, but in any subsequent attacks you will be able to reap the benefits of this ability. The Voice of Experience can be used to fix a red or a green die, improving the extreme durability and offensive power of the battle scarred even further, as well as the Wise Man is also helping out in this regard by providing an automatic success and a automatic block symbol to the relevant rolls of the battle scarred. I have used this combination on the battle, and it was truly demoralizing for my opponent, because when they went to attack the battle scarred, I would use the Voice of Experience to fix the green die, so the battle scarred would be effectively starting their roll at 4 automatic blocks and 1 ignored wound, and that's something that your average opponent at this stage of the meta at least isn't going to be expecting the Northern Tribes forces to pull off, so that feels pretty great. The battle scarred do have their own innate push modifiers, but when you attach the Wise Main to the unit, you are able to achieve the dream scenario of effectively paying for that push modifier once by stressing your battle scarred, but getting to activate the bonus twice, since you can add the Wise Main's bonuses to those of the battle scarred. And when you take the combination of the battle scarred's excellent, if not downright terrifying durability, and then if you choose the option of hitting back by taking a stress on your unit, you are effectively using 2 red dice and then also causing additional states to your opponent, so that feels pretty great. All in all, I'm having a hard time finding much to criticize about the combination of the battle scarred and the Wise Main, especially when we consider how cheap an attachment the Wise Main is and how he isn't going to increase the unit's cost in percentage terms all that much. So this is going to be the first combination that I'm going to give the excellent rating so far. Next on the menu when it comes to the character and unit combinations is combining the Orc Hunters with the Orc Contender. Contender is an officer type of model, and this is going to be the case with all the combinations that we are going to be having going forward. The advantage of an officer over a support character is the fact that they are indeed counted as one of the models in the unit, which effectively adds a model to the unit so they can sustain more casualties before you have to use the impaired troop profile. And indeed, if the unit is eventually wiped out to the last unit member, the character will eventually detach and continue to fight on their own unless the last attack against the unit was so fierce as to also be enough to wipe out the character alongside the unit they were leading. The contender helps steady the orc hunters' quote-unquote faint hearts by giving them a yellow dice to their willpower roll, just like the wise main did. But unlike the wise main, the contender does not make the orc hunters fearless, nor does he or she give them a reroll on their willpower either. So you just have to do with the orange and the yellow dice you have access to at that point. The fact of the matter is, when it comes to claiming objectives, that the contender not only adds a passive +1 conquest to the orc hunters, but also their orc commander ability allows for an additional point of conquest to be added to the mix in any given turn that the orc hunters actually inflict damage upon their enemies. So the orc hunter unit that has been joined by the contender is a credible scoring threat when it comes to capturing objectives that are heavily defended by the enemy, because they can outscore Conquest 2 and lesser enemies trying to fend off even such a basic Northern Tribes infantry unit. What the contender lacks is any switch abilities, which means that the orc hunters have to make do with what they've got, so they can make use of their own vulnerable, inducing double or single special switch depending on how many are remaining, and then they have the defensive block to success switch, but they can't make use of any of the other symbols on their dice rolls. Then again, the additional success on the attack and the additional block on the defense is as useful here on the contender as it was on the wise main before. The contender adds a decent offensive push modifier that inflicts yet another automatic success, as well as gives another yellow dice to the orc hunter's attack, even though this is pretty good. The defensive single black dice isn't all that useful, since it'll be providing the orc hunters on average only 0.25 blocks per roll, and there is no way for the orc hunters in this combination to make any use of the plentiful specials that they are producing when defending, thanks to the abundance of black dice that they will be rolling. This means that defensive push modifier should probably be reserved for desperate situations only. Given as there is no reroll available from the contender, it's not as easy to soak up excess stress than with the wise main we talked about previously. Defiant Leader can be a valuable tool if you manage to pull an enemy unit close enough for the orc hunters to subsequently then charge and inflict damage upon, and the vulnerable state that it induces will help the orc hunters land a devastating first strike against any unit that has been thusly pulled out of position. Obviously, this ability can also be used to push away enemy units that might, for example, be able to counter-attack the hunters after they have been able to engage an enemy unit. But do remember that if you do intend to try and use Defiant Leader in this manner, you have to remember that you require a line of sight from the contender themselves to the unit that you are bound to be targeting. Obviously, your own orc hunters won't block a line of sight to the target, but the unit that you are engaging might. So be careful when trying to set this type of trick up. The contender is not only a force multiplier to the unit that they join, as discussed when talking about the contender in their own unit analysis piece, but rather they are supposed to help the entire, or at least large part of the Northern Tribes force project more scoring threat through active turn, additional conquest due to the Orc Commander ability. And to make best use of the Orc Commander ability, the contender needs to be where the fighting is probably going to be the thickest, or at least the most intensive and important. So it's probably a good idea in many occasions to have a unit escort the contender into the proper position, and the Orc Hunters are the most inexpensive way you can do that. So this is a fine combination if you are looking for a cheap way to get the contender to the right position safely. All in all, I would consider this combination to be more situational than excellent, but I still think that we are going to be seeing a fair bit of contenders joining Orc Hunters going forward. Next up, we have the battle scarred under the management of a contender. The battle scarred enjoy the officer attribute of the contender and the following characters even more so than the orc hunters, since you are effectively adding another model to a unit that's quite expensive per model. So if we just take it by points comparison, an orc hunter is 5 points per model, so adding a model will get you a 5-point worth of additional performance if you are looking at the situation that way, whereas the battle scarred are effectively double that price, so you are getting more bang for your buck by attaching officers to the battle scarred unit. The additional morale provided by the contender is also valued here, but obviously there are no additional or rather the additional willpower and morale are welcomed here, but obviously there are no additional psychological defenses that the contender is adding. Then again, with a morale value of 3 and a willpower of double orange and a yellow, the battle scarred should be more than fine at this point. The contender does provide some decent additional performance, and there is now more incentive to use the push modifier even on the defensive, since the battle scarred already have their own push modifiers available, so you can again combine the two for truly devastating effects. The yellow dice that's provided on top of the couple of automatic successes that you are including at this point when it comes to pushing on the offensive is going to be actually rather valuable to the battle scarred, since they have a powerful switch ability that allows them to turn any hollow successes into automatic wounds on the enemy unit. And the yellow dice is indeed the one most inclined to give you hollow successes out of all of the offensive dice. So there's some additional value to be gained from there. While the battle scarred lack the elite keyword and thus the actual defensive performance that the contender's defensive push modifier gives them is rather low as a result, unlike the hunters, the battle scarred can actually make good use of the special symbols that they are producing on their defense, thanks to when above half strength there are two different kinds of debuffing solid special switches. So the contender effectively helps them make sure that they inflict both slowed and vulnerable on enemy units foolish enough to attack your battle hardened elite orcs. The added conquest that comes from the natural +1 and also the Orc Commander should make the battle scarred even worse of a nightmare for your opponent, since they are more valuable when it comes to conquering objectives. Then again, I would imagine that the battle scarred are quite capable of escorting any defending units out of the perimeter and then taking the undefended objective for themselves in most situations. But there may come a time when, for example, a unit of enemy bulwarks is standing in your way, and brute forcing your way through them in a timely manner is not going to be possible, so out conquesting the problem might be a way to solve the situation. The enemy will probably be doing their best to stay away from the charge range of the battle scarred, and again, Defiant Leader can be helpful here in order to pull enemy units into their doom by forcing them to come close enough for the contender accompanied battle scarred to charge the unfortunate enemy unit in question. The Defiant Leader is also a way of triggering Relentless before you gather your attack dice, so you can get that additional success in if you are willing to engage in using this command skill. The buffs that the contender brings to the battle scarred are not groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination, but they are good. And not only is the contender helping the battle scarred perform better on the battlefield, the battle scarred are also the most heavy duty bodyguard unit that you can have to protect your contender as they work to project additional force wide or at least flank wide conquest against your opponent. So this combination is a situation where both sides get something out of the deal. As such, I was hesitant whether to consider the combination excellent or situational, but I erred on the side of caution and chose to create this one also as a situational. Which leads us nicely to the named contender character Lotta and her Orc Hunter crew that in the backstory is referred to as the Punished Crew. As an officer, Lotta adds another model to the Orc Hunters, which is all fine and dandy, and she will also be effectively adding a orange dice to their willpower and a point to their morale and their conquest, which means that Lotta is in one fell swoop going to be addressing many of the innate weaknesses of the Orc Hunters unit. So by these ways alone, she is quite a good addition to the unit. The offensive and defensive additional performance that Lotta is bringing is decent, even though not all that amazing. An automatic additional success on the offense and additional block on the defense are good enough in and of themselves. She does have both push modifiers for the offense and the defense. They aren't amazing, but decent enough. You are getting an automatic success and a automatic hollow special on the offense that can be used to trigger Lotta provided hollow special switch that will impose the disarmed state upon the Orc Hunter's enemies, which will reduce their counter-attacking potential in subsequent combat rounds. The defensive push modifier only adds a orange dice worth of damage to the return attack, and with the lack of any additional defensive switches, the Lotta's defensive power increase to the Orc Hunter is pretty standard, nothing amazing to report here. But where there actually is something amazing to report is in Lotta's command skill Move Your Asses. What Move Your Asses does is that it dials the humble 20-point Orc Hunter unit's damage output to the 11, as it grants the unit raging, which is effectively an automatic hit if they are able to, or automatic success rather, if they are able to charge, and then another automatic success to every attack and also defense roll for the next 3 turns. Not only this, but additionally the unit will be able to benefit from whopping additional 3 strides of charge distance, which should enable the Orc Hunters joined by the Lotta to out-threat pretty much anything in your opponent's arsenal. So unless the enemy is able to game the terrain or maybe some other interfering elements to their advantage, Lotta and her hunters can stand off against most enemy units and then deliver a devastating charge against them once you decide that the time for such a maneuver is right. Cat O' Nine Tails is another ability that Lotta will be granting the unit. This is more nice than great. It stops enemy units from placing or displacing from the combat, which can help stop some slippery units from escaping an engagement with the Orc Hunters. And also in some situations Lotta will be able to inflict an additional wound upon the enemy once the combat result is calculated. This ability is going to be especially powerful against extremely high defense units that are hard to wound via the traditional brute force way, but then again it's going to be next to useless against units that are able to sustain trickle damage without suffering any actual effects. Take a look at someone like the Orc Battle Scarred in a mirror match, or a high willpower hegemony unit joined by the War Surgeon, and this ability isn't going to be doing all that much damage wise. All in all, Lotta offers some fantastic additional threat range and damage boosts, as well as pretty stern psychological benefits to the Orc Hunter unit that she joins. And as long as you are willing to trade this unit for something more valuable and more elite by leveraging your extra charge range and all the additional damage that you will be causing both on the attack and on the defense, you should be able to use Lotta and her hunters to not only redeem the said Orc Hunter unit in question from their past crimes, but also inflict tremendous damage upon your enemies. So it's pretty easy to rate Lotta and the Orc Hunters as an excellent combination that I'm looking forward to running in many of my games going forward. Well, how about if we attach Lotta to to the battle scar, then how will that situation turn out? Let's take a look. Officer, as already discussed, is going to be quite valuable for the battle scarred, and they will be able to make use of Lotta provided additional conquest and morale, but at the same time, as Lotta is imposing the same willpower upon the battle scarred that they already had previously, there is actually no net benefit when it comes to the willpower of the battle scarred when you perform this unit attachment. The offensive and defensive help provided by Lotta is most certainly welcome here, and again you are able to benefit from the um, double push modifier situation. But at the same time, yes, disarmed will help the battle scarred duel their enemies, but the Lotta provided switch that will impose the disarmed state comes up too late in the attack sequence to be able to trigger Relentless on the first round of combat, so it's mainly there to help the battle scarred gain the upper hand against something dangerous that they are fighting at the moment. Move Your Asses is obviously going to help the battle scarred take the fight to the enemy in a very decisive way, but unfortunately they already have the raging keyword, so you are getting some doubling down in this regard, and I can't personally help but feel that the battle scarred do offer more value when you are able to stack more defensive modifiers on them rather than the additional offense in lieu of defense that Lotta is doing with the defensive, quote unquote, defensive side of Move Your Asses. Cat O' Tails will help the battle scarred maintain a deathlock on enemy units that have no business trying to outfight them. If you are, for example, facing a mirror match and you are able to get to grips with Tundra Marauders, they can use the switch to disengage away from the battle scarred and Lotta, and they are forced to continue to fight a doomed battle as a result. All in all, I don't consider the Battle Scarred plus Lotta to be as excellent of a value pick as the Lotta plus Hunters combination was previously, but still there is plenty there to work with if you want to make your Battle Scarred more of a fast offensive piece than a turtling and slow grinding defense-oriented orc unit that they can be made up as, for example, by attaching the wise main to the unit. Next up we have the combination of orc hunters and the orc prime warrior. The Prime Warrior is a officer type character who provides additional morale and conquest to the Orc Hunters to the effects that already have been discussed previously several times over. But notably, the Prime Warrior does not increase the willpower of the unit that they have been attached to in any way, which actually leaves the Orc Hunters extremely susceptible to any willpower effects. They can, for example, resist taunt effects by the bulwarks. They are susceptible to stress from intimidating foes. If they go overboard on their stress, they are quite likely to break and flee the field of battle. So this is a glaring weakness that the Prime Warrior fails to address, even though he or she is extremely expensive when compared to the Orc Hunters that they are joining. The Prime Warrior does offer a rather sizable boost to the Orc Hunter's offensive output, however. An additional red dice and an automatic success is quite a whopping damage increase. And on the defensive, the automatic success and the single red dice push modifier sure do help. But actually, in the case of the Orc Hunters, the automatic success is actually inferior objectively to a automatic block symbol, since with the defensive switch that the Orc Hunters have access to, the block would actually allow them to choose between using the block to stop damage incoming or to return damage via the switch. When you are working with the Prime Warrior's automatic success, you cannot use that for anything else except trying to force direct damage against your enemy. This, combined with the fact that the hunters are innately only morale 1, morale 2 with the Prime Warrior, means that it's quite difficult to get most value out of spurred by your energy. Yes, you can have effectively Conquest 4 or Hunters, which is not bad at all, but at the same time you have a Conquest 4 or Hunters unit at that point that will break 37.5% of the time the next time they will suffer any stress, so that's a pretty big weakness right there. Also, the most threat range that you can gain effectively from this ability is just 3 more strides of charge, since if you are already at full 2 stress you can no longer activate the Orc Hunter, so the theoretical 16 stride charge isn't going to happen with this unit at least. So all in all, even before considering the fact that the Prime Warrior is quite an excellent piece running solo, I would have to consider the combination of Orc Hunters and the Prime Warrior as opportunistic at this time. How about we combine the warrior at their absolute peak and those warriors who have just passed their peak in the battle scarred and the prime warrior. The battle scarred, as already talked about previously, appreciate the additional unit member provided by the officer, as well as the additional morale and conquest that the prime warrior provides. The inability of the Prime Warrior to provide any willpower benefits is actually not so bad for the battle scarred, since they are already rocking a solid double orange willpower from the get-go, so the Prime Warrior in a way gets a pass on this one. The additional martial prowess that the Prime Warrior offers is a mixed bag, however. Yes, the additional red dice and an automatic success on the offense is nice, but the fact that the Prime Warrior does not have a offensive push modifier means that on the offensive the battle scarred will only be able to exchange their stress for a single automatic wound, which isn't all that amazing. Likewise, on the defense, I feel that the battle scarred would be able to gain interest upon interest by stacking additional block symbols and other defensive modifiers instead of just inflicting more raw damage against their opponent. But obviously, this is more of a point to be argued over than what was the case when it came to the Orc Hunters previously. Unfortunately, the Prime Warrior does not give any additional ways for the battle scarred to trigger Relentless, so they have to just work with the innate triggers that they have access to, which effectively means that no Relentless on the first round, unless some other allied unit has been kind enough to set the stage for the battle scarred, so to speak, beforehand. Then again, the battle scarred are the prime candidates for making good use of spurred by your energy, since with the natural high morale value of 2 increased to 3 thanks to the presence of the prime warrior, you can actually leverage that silly 16 stride charge distance with your battle scarred, and you can also get them up to quite scary conquest value of 5 if there is a contender present, even 6. So the battle scarred should be able to snatch objectives from underneath even the most heavily defended positions if you are making this combination happen. Then again, we are talking about an expensive unit that's now joined by an expensive character, so I'm not so sure that this is something too great to write to home about. Eventually, I'm going to be willing to give this combination the situational grade. It's not quite bad enough to warrant opportunistic, but even so, I don't think it's also not great enough to warrant the full excellent grading either. Phew, almost an hour in. Now we have covered all the orc support and officer characters. Let's discuss the so far 2 released orc high commands next. And let's start by combining the box standard orc hunters with the generic high command orc wrathmane. The wrathmane, as an officer should, adds a model to the unit, so it's effectively a 5-member orc hunters unit going forward from here. The additional willpower and morale help steady up the orc hunters and mitigate to some extent their lackluster ability to activate several times during a round, and also steadies their faint hearts against the terrors of the battlefield. The added conquest can come in handy, as already talked about, especially under the situation where you are combining the set added conquest with someone like, for example, the orc contender, or you are bunching several of your units up to take a key objective from your enemy. The Wrathmane can utilize his command skill Wrathroar to soften up enemy units for your orc hunters to then eviscerate with the help of the disarmed state, and hopefully the hunters can then break the enemy that is now frightened and soon to be chopped up by mighty orcish weaponry. Speaking of chopping up, the Wrathmane not only adds a success to the attacks of the orc hunters, but he effectively also makes them pseudo elite when it comes to their damage infliction, since he offers them a switch ability that switches hollow successes for automatic wounds. The orange and the red dice that mostly compromise the orc hunter's attack roll aren't all that good at providing hollow successes. There's only one in each of those dice, but then again, on average, that'll help you push some damage through to extremely high defense enemy units, and also lessens the chance of you rolling poorly and not inflicting wounds on those dice. Obviously, this effect is most important for the yellow dice, of which the hunters only have a single one, and that's only present when the unit is at full or above half strength. There's also a nice little bit of scenario play element that comes with the Wrathmane, with his ability to change or switch rather hollow special symbols for a three strides displays effect that allows the hunters to effectively clear objectives without entirely destroying or outfighting and pushing away the enemy unit present there. With these switches, you effectively get into a situation where the orc hunters are on the offensive, able to make use of all of the symbols that they produce. They can use their successes for traditional damage, hollow successes for automatic wounds, solid specials for inflicting vulnerable, and hollow specials for displacing their enemies. So that's a pretty great situation for a 20-point basic infantry unit to be at. On the defensive, the automatic block helps, and the Weissman also provides a decent enough push modifier. The offensive push modifier is actually way more dangerous, since it's adding not only a red dice but also a automatic success to the roll. All in all, this combination of orc hunters and the standard Wrathmane is quite a powerful, surprisingly damage resistant and rather cheap combination. So I have well and truly fallen in love with this combination, and I love running this in most of my games that I'm playing so far. So to nobody's surprise, I'm going to give this combination the excellent grading. Then if you want to perform a truly elite unit attachment combination, then you can have your Wrathmane join your battle scarred, and let's take a look about that combination next. While the Wrathmane does not increase the willpower of the battle scarred, as it's already at 2 orange, he does give them additional morale, conquest, and a additional unit member, and these are all things that the battle scarred are more than happy to have access to. Unfortunately, the automatic wound inflicting switch that was so powerful, or at least so useful, let's put it that way, on the Orc Hunters is a moot point here, since the battle scarred already have access to that exact switch innately. Then again, they can make quite a good use out of the displace effect that the Wrathmane will be bringing along if either of the orange dice are willing to give out that die facing for them to use. The Wrathroar ability is going to be pretty nice here, since it can be used to soften up the enemy unit via vulnerable and thus also trigger Relentless as you are collecting your dice for your strike. So you are not only then leveraging raging if you are, for example, charging a unit that you have just shouted at, you are also gaining the benefit from the Relentless and all the other damage potential that the Wrathmane is providing your battle scarred access to. The Wrathmane's automatic success and automatic block help increase the battle scarred's performance to a truly monstrous level, while also this orc leader is providing them with empowered push modifiers, which means that, for example, offensively pushing is now going to be a real option for them, since they are effectively adding 2 wounds worth of damage equivalent to the roll and a red dice besides that are going to be including at least 1 in addition to these. While on the defense, if the battle scarred so choose, they can be rolling 2 red dice in addition to their defensive ones, and also causing an automatic negative state thanks to the automatic solid special that they will be having access to. All in all, this combination lacks some of the fine-tuned synergy that we saw with the previous combination, but there is a decent amount of increased performance that can be gained here. And if you are looking for some mission-specific reason, for example, to escort your cheapish Wrathmane with the most battle-hardened unit available, it's going to have to be the battle scarred. So I'm willing to give this combination the grade of situational. Well, how about we try and look next how the named Wrathmane character Alborg looks when we attach him to the orc units available so far. Alborg grants the Orc Hunters his excellent willpower of 2 orange dice, as well as an extra point of morale and an additional unit member, all important buffs that we have already discussed several times over. Unfortunately, he does not increase their conquest value, however, which ends up leaving the Orc Hunters weak when it comes to scenario playing potential, not all that great at defending objectives and quite poor at taking them. And even if you try and stack additional modifiers from other sources on top of this, you are starting at such a low point that it's really hard to make up for the deficit later on going forward. It's nice that the leader of our main Orcish faction will be providing the unit he has joined with an automatic success and that nice and flexible automatic block, but at the same time he is not going to be providing the Orc Hunters with any push modifiers nor any other relevant combat skills, so he's going to end up leaving the Orc Hunters rather basic and rather weak, and not a type of unit that's going to be able to take on tough opposition. Even though, ironically, if Alborg was working alone, he could probably make short work of most such units. It's true that Alborg does keep effectively the War Alliance ability as well as his money-making skill Wark and the Crow, so if you are looking to escort Alborg safely to the enemy lines through, for example, persistent ranged attacks or other types of threat vectors that you are worried about, then this combination might make sense. Or if you already have the rest of your list covered, you have decided to use Alborg for the Vark and the Crow and maybe War Alliance, and you have 20 points remaining, then you might as well get the Orc Hunters and make this combination. But other than that, I'm not going to be going out of my way to perform this combination. So it's pretty easy to see why I'm going to be calling this one opportunistic and not even situationally good. Unfortunately, if you for one reason or another choose to attach Alborg to the battle scar, the situation isn't going to be all that much better either. Since Alborg does not buff the battle scar's willpower nor conquest, nor does he give them any additional skills, abilities, switches, or ways of, for example, triggering relentless, this combination is going to end up tasting quite not great pretty early on. There are also no push modifier help to be applied from Alborg to the unit, so the battle scarred are left with their own decent push modifiers, but you are unable to leverage the 2-for-1 type of situation that you should probably be looking to implement with this powerful unit of veteran orcs. The automatic symbols, extra morale, and the officer character type are obviously all nice benefits that can be made use of if there is no other character willing and able to join the battle scarred. But eventually I feel that this is a combination that leaves the battle scarred more as an escort to Alborg rather than Alborg being a leader of the battle scarred unit. So it's pretty easy to see that I'm going to create this one as opportunistic also. And this will lead us nicely to the last segment of this video, that's going to be Varank officers attached to orc units. And obviously if you are looking to implement these combinations, then you have to have access to a War Alliance character. So as of right now, either Alborg or Alvard Icebear. Let's start off by taking a look at the box standard Orc Hunters and the generic Hersir character combination. As before, Hersir being an officer adds a model to the Orc Hunters unit. The added effective willpower is only a single yellow dice, since the Hersir is imposing their own willpower upon the Orc Hunters unit, but also Hersir has access to the not one step back command skill, which means that if your Orc Hunters should ever fail a willpower roll that you find to be critical, you can just pay quote-unquote a tax of a single command token to make the problem go away. So you are effectively getting a Orc Hunters unit via this combination that can be steadfast as long as you are willing and able to spend command tokens for them to be so, which is pretty great, since every time you do get to roll for the willpower first, and then you get to choose whether you want to pay that command token or not if you should fail the test incurred. The additional conquest is a nice change of pace after the lackluster performance increase of Alborg previously, so that gets our Orc Hunters to conquest 2. The Hersir does add not only a automatic success to the attack roll of the Orc Hunters, but he already gives them 2 switches. One is a double solid special switch that is effectively an alternative switch to the vulnerable that the Orc Hunters are innately able to impose. The Hersir's one being a switch that simply removes a block from your opponent, especially in effect, I mean enforcing more damage through to them now at the expense of maybe you could have done more damage in subsequent attacks thanks to the vulnerable state later on. So you get effectively to choose between doing a bit more now and bit more or maybe a lot more later on when you choose to employ vulnerable. The other switch is a wholly unique one. It's a hollow success switch that applies the disarmed state to the unit that the orc hunters are dueling, so that will help them overcome the opposition as time goes on. The Hersir does offer a weak offensive push modifier of a single automatic success, which isn't all that amazing in and of itself, but when you combine that with not one step back, you can find a situation where you are willing to, for example, activate a or counter unit that's about to reach its full morale at the end of this activation, then push them over that threshold in order to activate this push ability, safe in the knowledge that okay, you are rolling a red and a yellow dice at the end of the activation to effectively cancel that extra stress that you just incurred, and even should you be unlucky enough to fail that roll, you can simply pay that command token, make use of not one step back, and okay, no harm, no foul, except that one lost command token. So that's decent enough in and of itself. The Orc Hunters are excellent candidates for the Berserker Rage granted by the to die killing ability of Hersir, since we are talking about a 20-point basic infantry unit that has 4 members and 8 wounds to spend. So most of the time what should be happening is that you should be using this ability to trade wounds from your Orc Hunters against more impactful or more expensive enemy units. Then again, if you fail to roll that one hollow success required to activate the Hersir switch, and you are determined to disarm your opponent for future, then you can obviously use the Berserker Rage to activate that ability also. All in all, with the lack of any defensive modifiers, skill symbols beyond that arguably defensive application of the offensive disarming switch, the Hersir is going to give a lot of offensive potential, but not so much defensive one. Actually, he can he can make it so that your orc hunters meet the world spirit quicker thanks to applying a berserker rage over and over again. So what you end up having is this berserker gang type of unit that's potentially deadly in the right close combat situation, but it's strategically a rather inflexible unit that's not very good in many other situations. But I have seen this combination used to good effect on the battlefield, so I'm willing to give it at least the situational tag for the moment. I will need to play with this combination more in the future. This is one of those that might be a prime candidate for an upgrade to excellent, but I chose again to be more conservative when it comes to handing out those excellent grades, so we'll be going forward with the situational. Well, how about adding Hersir to the battle scar then? I have talked about officers, additional morale, and additional conquest so many times before that I'm not going to be doing that anymore. You get the gist. Let's move on. In a rather awkward turn of events, as the Hersir imposes their willpower upon the battle scar, that's actually a downgrade to the willpower of the unit. Which isn't optimal and which is pretty quickly showing some of the weaknesses that come with this combination. Obviously, it's nice to have the not one step back to fall back to, but then again, you probably wouldn't be having to do that if you had a different combination that you were working with. So I'm not going to be counting that as a stellar benefit of having Hersir join your battle scarred in the first place. The Hersir can somewhat empower the battle scarred's offense thanks to the additional success and also being able to combine his push modifier with the battle scarred's. But then again, the switches from the Varank captain aren't all that amazing here, since the double red, double orange, or even the red and 3 orange of the battle scards offensive dice aren't all that good at producing those solid specials for using that block cancelling switch, and in another very unsynergistic turn of events, the other Hersir switch that imposes the disarm state is actually competing for the symbols that the battle scarred themselves can use to inflict automatic wounds. So I'm not really a fan of this combination from this point of view either. To die killing can at some point be useful, but then again you are sacrificing expensive wounds from a elite unit that's supposed to be tanking attacks from your opponent thanks to abilities like orc scars and high defense score, so it does feel rather scornistic to be inflicting damage on them then by yourself in exchange for rather moderate benefits, since there aren't any truly amazing switches that you could be triggering via the use of this ability either. The Hersir also is unable to provide any additional defensive kit to help the battle scarred increase their excellent trademark durability to legendary levels, so in this way also I'm not seeing this combination as a worthwhile. So all of you can probably see this one coming from a mile away. This is well and truly in the opportunistic territory. If I was talking about the opportunity cost of running these characters solo, I would also bring up the fact that I have had quite some good success with a solo Hersir also. So if there was a situation where I had only these two units in my force and I could combine them thanks to War Alliance, I might still choose not to do so in many situations. Oof, almost an hour and a half in, we are finally at the final character. So let's push on and get this video all wrapped up. So let's talk about Orc Hunters and Njord the Merciless. Njord adds some pretty familiar sounding buffs to our standard Orc Hunters, granting them effectively an additional yellow dice to willpower, an additional point of morale, and an extra model to the unit via the officer classification. The Hersir from Brynjalmar ability will grant effectively the Hersirs to die killing abilities of Berserker Rage to the unit, as well as giving them the chance to re-roll the dice of their choice when it comes to re-rolling the dice after charging, which will help drive up the average damage of a charging unit of Orc Hunters that's been joined by Njord. Njord also adds his namesake ability, the Merciless, which in its attached version is rather weak, since it'll only inflict the frightened state upon the enemy if and when the Orc Hunters that are joined by him can inflict damage upon them. Njord does, however, cost double the points cost of the Orc Hunters, and the bonuses that he provides are rather moderate. There's a couple of automatic symbols available there, some weak push modifiers, but no additional switches or anything like this. And also, again, no extra conquest, so you're looking at a weak scenario playing tool in your orc hunters. So it's pretty safe to say that there are way stronger combinations out there. So I'm going to have to give this one also the unfortunate opportunistic grade. And that leads us nicely to the last unit combination, that of Battle Scarred and Njord. Officer and additional morale help here as they have done before, but just like was the situation with the Hersir, Njord reduces the morale of the battle scarred, or rather the willpower of the battle scarred, and this time around there isn't even not one step back to fall back to, so boo and hiss for this one all the way. Njord also does not add any conquest to the battle scarred, which is yet another point in favor of not committing him to this combination. Though Berserker Rage can be used again to increase the damage output of the battle scarred, but as already discussed, this isn't something that they should be all that eager to make use of because of their elite nature. The Merciless can help the battle scarred break any opponent that they defeat, at least theoretically, and obviously the Hersir from Brynjalmar can be used to also increase their average damage when charging, but these are all in all not all that amazing buffs for the unit, so this isn't a combination that I'm running to get either. The added automatic success and block to the relevant roles is decent enough, and you are able to combine two push modifiers for their effects at the cost of single stress, so that's at least nice. All in all, Njord is going to double the price of your already pricey battle scarred without producing amazing synergistic bonuses to the battle scarred or to himself. So theoretically, yes, you can use the battle scarred to escort Njord to position, but I find myself thinking, wouldn't it be more worthwhile to fork your opponent between several powerful units and or unit character combinations rather than sticking all of your important eggs in one giant basket that your opponent can then maybe crowd control or outflank or whatever. So this is going to be firmly in the opportunistic category also. Phew, and with that, I am happy to report to you all, fellow travelers, that we have finally reached the end of this massive length episode. Thank you all for bearing with me. My hope and my aim is to produce a piece like this on the Varank units released so far, but I'm going to need some time to prepare that, so I'm not going to promise that just for next week, but I'm going to be releasing that as soon as possible. With this video, I'm now going to wish you all very happy new year. May it be full of nice events and good games of Warcrow, especially if you are a Northern Tribes player looking to solidify our faction's foothold in the Northern Lindworm territories. So, all the best to you, fellow travelers. Goodbye for now.